I met this girl when I was 10 years old. I met this girl when I was 10 years old. I met this girl when I was 10 years old. I met this girl when I was 10 years old. And what I love most, she had so much soul. She was old school when I was just a shorty, never knew. Throughout my life she would be there for me on a regular. Not a church girl.
Lottie, Lottie. 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 You know what? Yo, peep this. Lottie, Lottie.
I met this girl when I was 10 years old. And what I love most, she had so much soul. She was old school. I was just a shorty, never knew throughout my life she would be there for me. I started off with that classic common I used to love her verse, because when I really think about the Lottie Dottie principle, while I intend to deal with the sociological and anthropological and the theological understandings of how we got to this place where we don't want to cause trouble and we don't want to bother nobody, I really think that it's important to address probably one of the most important cultures, the most influential cultures of our time, which is hip-hop culture. And because I am a product of the church and of hip-hop culture, and essentially a lot of what I really want to deal with is about how culture has impacted us, how our life has been so impacted as Christians by culture, I think it's important to come from this whole perspective, the whole hip-hop perspective. That's where Lottie Dottie comes from, and that's the reason why if this documentary was broken down into chapters, each chapter is a great hip-hop lyric, and chapter 1 would absolutely be I Used to Love Her. I believe that in the beginning we came to this earth very clear about some things, and the reason that I'm asserting that is because I believe that little children, before we tell them, before adults, before when we were children, before people told us things that we could not do, there was this internal thing that was built inside of us that led us to believe that we could literally do anything. When I was a little girl, I remember climbing to the roof of the house. I remember believing that I could fly. I remember walking the fence, like not jumping the fence. I remember walking the fence. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. I didn't just exist when I was conceived. That's not just when I came into existence. God spoke me in the beginning, and when He spoke me, He didn't put some question marks. There were some very clear things that He said about me. That's where that whole, I met this girl when I was 10 years old, and what I love most, she had so much soul. I'm kind of speaking about this little girl. I remember this little girl that I used to be before life happened and before pain and disappointment caused me to believe, as a girl, as a woman, and especially even as a Christian, made me believe that I'm not what God said I am, that I'm not as powerful, that I'm not as big, that I'm not as mighty, as effective, as necessary in the kingdom as what God really says about me. The thing about it is, just the same way for Christians, when we were babes in Christ, we believed that we really had the power to change the world. We really believed that we could make an exceptional impact, that there was something about our relationship with God now that was going to really make a difference. But then life happens, and these disappointments just kind of pile on top of that truth, that innocence, that 10-year-old version of ourselves, that little kid version of ourselves. Those things pile on top of that, the hurt and the mistrust and the brokenness and even the church hurt. And those things happen to us, and we start to forget what God said about it. The Lottie Dottie principle is about how we are a collection of learned behavior, particularly from the point of view of the church. Our esteem, worth, boldness is measured by the examples we see growing up in the church or even outside the church. When the Son set us free, He set us free indeed. And that means that you are that person that you remember as a child. And even if you don't have those memories, even if the pain and the brokenness started very early for you, and so all of those things hid itself from you even as a child, now, today, you have the opportunity to come back to the things that God really said about you. That's the reason why right relationship with God is important, so that you can hear from Him, so that He can remind you. That's what the Lottie Dottie principle is about. It's about how not just the fact that we don't cause trouble and we don't bother nobody. Lottie Dottie is also about what happened to us to cause us to not cause trouble and not bother anybody. Lottie Dottie is also about the business of impacting this earth by telling us, where do we go from here? Support the Lottie Dottie principle by visiting the website and sharing these videos with your friends and your family. When you donate, every level of donation has an incentive and or a perk, but more importantly, your contribution causes us to be co-laborers in ministry. So every person that this documentary has the opportunity to impact and to bless and to change, to deliver and to save, you also receive the benefits of that as well. We can change the world, so we must.
You know what? Yo, peep this. Lottie Dottie. We like to party. We don't cause trouble. We don't bother no. Okay, party people.